Hi, I'm Deanie Pellegrin, back again with an interesting guest. Hope you'll join us for the next 15 minutes or so. We're going to talk about Tryon, North Carolina. It's a dot on the map, but it's also the crossroads of the world, I have found. And I want to thank Andy Millard for giving us some time this morning. He's not quite a native here, but he's done a lot like a native would in bettering his community. So thank you, Andy, and good morning.
Good morning, Deanie. Good to see you.
This is kind of hard to get into, Andy. You have done so much here with the restoration of the old depot, because at one time this was quite a train track through here. The track's still here, but you're open for business. If the trains decide to come through, you're right here on the track, ready to welcome them to this wonderful little community. You're here about how many years?
Well, I moved with my family to Spartanburg, South Carolina when I was 14 years old. That was way back in the early 1970s. I've been here pretty much ever since.
Why Tryon?
Tryon is the best place in the world.
Well, you found that out, but I mean, what attracted you here to begin with?
Well, actually, what brought us here, my wife and I, to begin with, I just finished about a 7-year career in teaching and school administration in Gaston County, North Carolina, just outside of Charlotte. I was looking for a job as a school principal, and we wanted to move closer to the mountains. And so I got an offer to be the first principal at Polk County High School, the very first principal at the consolidated high school. They consolidated Tryon High School and Polk Central High School, who were bitter rivals at the time. They were the only two high schools in Polk County. They consolidated them into Polk County High School, and here I was, a young kid. They brought me in, and it was quite an adventure.
Is this the beautiful building up on the hill where I think it's the primary school now, right here in town? Is that where the school was?
No. The new Polk County High School is still the high school today. This is out in Columbus, outside of Columbus on Highway 108, on the way toward the Green Creek area, the Mill Spring area, and it consolidated Tryon High School, which was located where Harmon Field is today, and Polk Central High School, which is out there in the sort of on Highway 9 out there in the Mill Spring area. Okay,
good deal. So you came as a teacher. This is interesting because I've talked to others here who came here as teachers, and they stayed on. They're no longer in that profession, but you were with the schools, and how did you drift into what you're doing now with your financial business?
Well, actually, drift is not a bad way to put it. It's actually kind of the way it happened. I was as I say, the principal there at the high school for a year. I was principal at Tryon Middle School for a year. And the school system and I, at the time, did not see exactly eye to eye. I blame myself mostly for that. But it was clear that it was not going to be a compatible thing after.
It wasn't for you, in other words. You didn't feel satisfied with that career and you looked for other fields?
No. I loved that career. I would not have done it any differently. I loved every minute of my teaching and principal career. But at the same time, after a couple of years, when I knew that this was not going to be the place for me to work, I could have taken my family and maybe moved back to Gaston County and gotten a school there, and I had other offers from other school systems. But we wanted to stay here because we had grown to love the area, and at the time I was still young. I felt like a person can be happy doing a lot of different things, and I wanted to try something different. And actually, I just got sort of an offer to work with the parent of one of my students who happened to be in this business, and worked with her for a while, and then went and teamed up with another fellow here closer to home. With her, she was in Hendersonville, and then got teamed up with a fellow here closer to home, and one thing led to another, and here we are today.
Well, you have been so active in the community. It's like you were born here and you want to see your hometown grow to even greater things, maybe not in size, but in not quantity, but quality. And I have found I've lived around New York, Indiana, Cincinnati, Ohio for most of my life, and I have found that there is a quality here of life with everything that's offered that I've never seen in any other city, large or small. Cincinnati, well, you can compare it to Cincinnati with the arts and the things it offered. You could go someplace every day here. Did you find that this was one of the things that attracted you, or what, aside from scenically beautiful, was there any other thing that prompted you to stay here?
We stayed for a number of reasons that have actually changed since then and grown. But at the time, we had a 5-year-old son. We knew that this was a great place to raise a child, and we wanted to raise our son here. Things like Super Saturday, the Halloween stroll, the Christmas stroll, all the community things, the soccer programs, and eventually, as he got a little bit older, the school system was great for him. So those were the things, and we wanted to live in a small town. We don't want to live in a big city. My wife has been to plenty of big cities. We didn't want to go back to any big cities. So this was the place to be. And my parents were nearby. My father still lives 20 minutes away. So those were the things that kept us here to begin with. But the thing that has made my relationship with Tryon and Polk County grow deeper and richer over the years are the people and the things and the organizations, such as there are so many places that volunteers can go and really make a positive difference in the world. And they're right here in Polk County. The Fine Arts Center, the Hospice Organization.
The Growing Hospital?
Sure, the hospital, Habitat for Humanity, Thermal Belt Outreach.
The thrift shop?
The thrift
I'm getting a plug.
Thrift shops.
You know.
There are tons of thrift shops, and all for each one for a wonderful organization. Steps to Hope. I mean, you can just go on and on. The Red Cross. I mean, there are just so many organizations. There's so many great churches. And one of the things that I've found in my business, I work with a lot of retirees, of course, and people, a lot of times, retirees will want to retire to Florida. I think a lot of people go to Florida for a variety of reasons, but people come to Tryon because they really want to live. They want to volunteer. They've got things that they want to do, and they get involved. And I think they live longer and fuller lives when they do come to Tryon. And that's one of the things that makes it such a rich, rich place. And the variety of people as well. I mean, the people who have lived here whose families have lived here for generations and generations, they are fascinating people. They are good people, and they are such a rich resource for all the history and knowledge of the area. And then other people come in to bring in different ideas and sometimes the two groups can clash. That happens fairly often. But one of the things that I like about Tryon in particular is that we're sort of like a dysfunctional family. We like to get mad at each other and yell at each other and all, but we're still family. And after yelling at each other, it seems like people
get closer.
Seem to get along. I mean, after they're finished shouting at each other, they go on and have a regular old conversation and go on and do stuff together because it's too small. You can't break up into too many factions in a place this small. That's one of the things I love about it.
Yeah. Well, I think you've expressed the feelings that I got too, that people who retire here don't retire from living. They retire from the big city life or for whatever they were doing, but they still contribute once they so-called retire here. And that mixture of ideas, I think, is what's made Tryon so unique.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, and the other thing that you spoke about earlier with the trains, here we are doing this interview in the restored 1906 Tryon Depot. This depot was built in 1906. It was the third train depot in Tryon. The first one burned down. I believe the second one they outgrew, and then they built this one in 1906. And the trains really built Tryon. That's what put Tryon on the map, was the fact that we are on a train line a main line between Cincinnati, Ohio, and Charleston, South Carolina. And we're right at the foot of the Saluda Grade, which is the steepest standard grade train line east of the Mississippi. And so what happened in the early days of the trains would come down the Saluda Grade from Saluda to Tryon, and it was so steep they had to ride the brakes the entire time, and still there were some accidents. But when they got to the bottom of the grade here in Tryon, they had to stop to let the brakes cool. So a lot of people would be coming down the mountain from Cincinnati. Very wealthy folks would be coming to spend the winter in Charleston. So they would come down the mountain, pause here in Tryon. They would be greeted by children who would be carrying baskets of grapes. We had a particular variety of grapes that was grown around here called the Tryon grape. I don't think it exists anymore. But there was a table grape, and they would sell them to the people on the train. And the folks would get off, and they'd walk up and down the street and visit some of the shops, and discovered that Tryon was a delightful place. And a lot of them just didn't get back on the train to finish the trip. They would spend the winter here instead. So that's how we got such a wide variety of very interesting and well-known people starting to come to Tryon, was through the train.
I understand. I had another interview with the Mayor Peoples, and he was telling about a gentleman who got off to buy some grapes or something, which ties in with what you're saying. But he is the one who built the a resort or something here on the hillside, I think burned down, or is that a story that I'm remembering correctly?
Probably.
One of the passengers.
Probably. There are a lot of stories like that. And we still have some folks who live here in town who have lived here their whole lives, who remember as younger people either working for Oak Hall, which was the hotel at the top of the hill where Oak Hall condominiums are now. That was a very popular place for people to stay. But there were these folks who would work there or would work at Pinecrest Inn, and I have a picture right here across from us here on the wall of the train station in probably 1920 or so, with horse and carriages just lined up like taxi cabs. Yeah. People would get off and ride up the hill, which is just like a block or so, to Oak Hall, or to around a little bit farther over to the Pinecrest Inn to stay. And the porters and the various people were so friendly and so nice that they just had a great time. We also had William Gillette, who was a famous actor. He's the one who portrayed Sherlock Holmes on stage and all of that. So Gillette Woods is named after him. He lived in a very nice house that is still up there on the mountain that one of our local residents lives in and has been in for a while. So the history of the interesting different people is just rich, and the people that continues today, not necessarily famous people coming here to live, although we have a few of those as well, but other people who have been successful in their businesses retire and come here and continue to increase the, as far as I'm concerned, the richness of the culture that we have here.
And as Mayor Peoples' point, I keep quoting him, but he told me so many interesting things about the town that I'd never heard before. I've been here 3.5 years, and I am always interviewing people. My daughter says I interview telephone poles. But everyone here that I've talked to, I'm going to have them on to do some talks, just as you're doing now, about a little bit about their background and why they settled here. But the diversity of the talents that people have brought here, I think, is what makes it so interesting. And you had given us another insight into this. The train, that was probably the reason that it grew to the point where it is now. That's the reason it is what it is, because of the train.
That's right, and the trains have not been running for quite some time. The last train that did come through here was 2000. Prior to that, the last passenger train, regular passenger service, I believe, ended in 1978. So it's been a long time, and we've had to go through some changes of, instead of relying on the train, relying on sort of ourselves, because, well, actually for a long time also, the interstate, I-26, between Columbus and Saluda was not open. So people would often, if they're coming from south going north, they would get off in Landrum, drive through Landrum. through downtown Tryon on 176, up the Saluda grade on 176, just outside of Saluda, and then get on the interstate and keep going toward Asheville. So that was another thing that created lots of traffic and kept fresh blood kind of traveling, coursing through Tryon, and that has been done since the 70s. I guess it's late 70s that the interstate got finished, and so we've had to kind of evolve in our own direction without counting on lots of people just naturally coming through.
We'll get together again when you have some time and you're busy business helping people make a lot of money through the financial services you offer. I'll give you a little plug for that, okay? But we'll get together again. I would like to know what you see. Maybe you can give me just a closing remark about what you would like to see for the future of Tryon. We have 2 or 3 empty cotton mills and processing mills, empty buildings that are around that are available. What would you like to see for Tryon?
I would love to. I think the key to a successful Tryon is a beautiful and successful downtown Tryon. I also think that the key to a successful region, Polk County, the whole foothills area, is a successful, thriving downtown Tryon. I think that there are a number of organizations that are doing a great job at that. The Tryon Downtown Development Association does that. The new group, Always Tryon, is coming up with ideas, and I'm seeing a lot of rebirth in downtown Tryon based on just the enthusiasm that has been generated by these things. And what I'd like to really see eventually is sort of a harmonious theme among all the buildings and the architecture downtown that would cause people to come here and visit. And there are tons of great ideas, not just ones that I've had. And any idea that I have that's any good, I stole from somebody else anyway.
Well, there's no original idea. You always get it from someplace. I've read someplace.
That's right. All my best ideas are stolen.
Somebody else. So you're a thief, too, in addition.
Yes, ma'am.
But as long as you're stealing ideas, that's fine. Well, I'm just real thrilled with spending my final days here with my daughter and her husband. And I came here by choice, and I'm staying by choice. I've found everything that I need in my life to keep me busy and active, and I volunteered for the hospital auxiliary right away, and through that I've learned a lot about these interesting people here, and we're going to get them on to tell you a little bit about their background, and this F. Scott Fitzgerald stories that have come out when he brought his wife here, and Ernest Hemingway supposedly wrote here. Perry Como built a home up near Saluda. A lot of fun stories that the people here, I hope, will share with us, and I thank you. We'll be back again because we just hit the surface here, Mr. Millard, and I'm anxious to see what we can bring forth from these stolen ideas of yours.
All right. My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andy Millard. And we'll be back with another interesting person here in our area. Hope you'll join us as we bring these interesting stories to you and tell you a little about our town of Tryon. We're not perfect, but we're always trying. I think, isn't that the slogan?
That's it.
That's it. And but we'll be back with another interesting person. Hope you'll join us. Until then, this is Deanie Pellegrin saying, have a happy day.